What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Mellow Mondays podcast. I'm a little tired and worn out. I've been working in the garden all morning. That's a podcast episode for another day. I'll kind of go into depth about what I'm doing and all the stuff I've planned and that sort of thing. Excuse me. But yeah, I have something a little different for today. Kind of talked about it at the end of last week. And I want to share the story of, we think it's Pat. It's either Pat or Pam. We'll call her Miss Pat for the sake of the podcast here. But we went to Arches with my family, and we were doing the Delicate Arch hike, which is like the iconic, arch there. It's on all of the Utah license plates, and it's like the most iconic one there. It's also probably one of the more challenging hikes to get up to. I mean, it's like 3 miles round trip. It's not terrible, but it's basically straight up or straight down. Like there's no just like kind of normal walking, a little bit at the beginning. But for the most part, it's a pretty steep incline up this big rock face. It's pretty cool. It's not that challenging, but it is a big altitude gain. So if you're not used to altitude, it can definitely be a little difficult. The first time I did it, me and my fiance did it at the end of the day because people said photos would be better. And we had already hiked like 12 miles. So I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend doing it in the morning, especially in the summer. It's so hot out there. I mean, it was like 90-something degrees by 11 o'clock, so it was toasty. Bring a bunch of water. Like if you're going to do it, normal stuff, it's dry out here. So like you don't realize you're losing all this moisture and all this stuff. And then you have heat stroke and all these different problems. So don't do that, but it's cool. The hike itself is dope. It's one of the coolest, like, it's just so crazy when you think about like how these arches were formed, and like it's just this big arch on this big like drop off. Like it's this little plateau, and then it's the only thing there. So it's really cool. You get to this little point where it like looks like you're on Mars. Like you're walking up this thin little path, and like out you see all this rock face, and I don't know, it just looks really cool. It looks extraterrestrial for sure. I don't think they have like a lot of like alien things out. You think of Roswell, New Mexico, and all that stuff, Area 51. But there's this little gas station over there. I think it was called Area 52 or something. Some weird little gas station that's alien themed. It was actually pretty sweet. So stop there. It's like right off I-70. And we went in just to we got to check it out. I bought a little keychain. Actually, let me find it here. The keychain's over here. Here, let me get the keychain because you gotta see it. It is a alien with a little UFO above him. It's kind of funny. My sister got some shirts and stuff, but like the toilets are spray painted gold, and like I don't know, it's just like this weird vibe place. They have a bunch of like exotic jerkies, like ostrich, all these random animals. So whatever. It was a cool little spot. Not really the point of this podcast, but a little tangent. But so we're doing this hike. We're going up. We're like, family's a little nervous just because not used to altitude, and it is kind of a difficult hike. But we're making our way up there, and I'd say we're probably like 3/4 of the way, maybe 2/3, where we're like kind of plateauing the hard stuff, and then we're moving into the easier portion of it, which is the last little section. And we see this old lady named Pat, and she is probably late 70s, 80s. I don't know. I'm not great at judging age. I mean, she's not young. Like this is a challenging hike. I'm about 31, and I'm huffing and puffing trying to get up this hike, and there's Pat, and she's just doing this hike. And me and my sister both kind of asked her if she needed help. You get to this little part at the end where there's these kind of bouldery little section. It's tough and it's sandy, so it's a little slick. So Megan asked her, my sister asked her if she needed help, and she said no, whatever. So we get to this one little spot, and I was kind of bringing up the rear, and I was like, "Are you sure you don't want?" So I helped her up this little step, whatever. And we keep on going. Like we ask her if she needs help. She keeps saying no. We're like, okay, she's okay. I'm like, we're all kind of like, it's a little odd that she's by herself, but I mean, she seems fine. She kept saying like, I don't need help. I'm like, okay, whatever. We keep going up, and we kind of get to the last little bit, and it kind of forks, and the arrow had gotten flipped over, so it looked like the arrow was pointing like the wrong way. And so Pat is like going off the wrong trail, and I'm like running over. I'm like, no, like it's this way, whatever. And she's like, oh, thank you. So like, we eventually get her on the right track, and like, I don't know. In the back of your head, you're like kind of nervous. Like, she probably shouldn't be out here by herself, but I don't know. Like, we're at least close, and we had extra water. If there, hopefully we would have been able to do something if there was a problem. So she gets up to the very top, and we eventually make it up there. We stop at this little window spot to take a photo. Like it's this little break. It's an arch, so you literally stand in the arch and then take a photo in front of the arch. That's like however many feet away, very far away. It's a pretty sick photo. Um, but we see Pat up there, and Pat's like, "Oh, I was looking for my sister, but she's not up here." And we're like, "It's kind of odd that like." It would be pretty hard not to see someone when you pass them on this trail. Like it's a pretty like it's pretty straightforward, like up and down, like people going up or passing the people going down. Like there's no real like places where you would miss someone. So we're like, okay, it's kind of odd that she doesn't know where her sister is. But like once again, like she seems fine. Like, in hindsight, you look back and like, oh my gosh, we should have been concerned. But like at the time, we weren't. And she eventually goes down. We take some photos and we like get further down. Maybe, I mean, we're probably got like a third of the way left, and we hear these people start cheering. And we're like, what is going on? And it's this group surrounding Miss Pat, and we're like, what is going on? So she was lost from her tour group apparently. So they came in on like one of those big buses, Greyhound bus or whatever. She was a part of a tour. They were only supposed to go to the petroglyphs, which is literally like the first like couple hundred yards of the hike. Like it's all flat. You walk around, you see these petroglyphs on the walls, which is cool. But that's like where the group was supposed to go. And so Pat literally just balled out and did the entire Delicate Arch hike. And in hindsight, it's funny, but like in the moment, we found out, like we were talking to some people, and like, yeah, like the park rangers were called, the bus got moved to try to get signal and call people. Like the tour guide was freaking out. Like everybody thought Miss Pat was gone, like lost, and like it was just a crazy thing. It's crazy how perspective changes everything. Because we're up there with Miss Pat on the top, and I'm like, yeah, she's fine, like she's doing great. People on the bottom are like, where is she? She's lost. This is really bad. It was hot, like all this stuff. So we all thought it was kind of a crazy story. Like we're talking to the tour guide after, I'm like, oh my gosh, like we just saw her at the top of the arch. Like I can't believe she did the hike. Like it is a challenging hike. And so she just, I don't know, it was cool like that she just went up to the top, no problems, like made it. Obviously, it caused some problems for the tour group. I'm sure there was going to be some funny conversation. I wish I could have heard him on the bus when Miss Pat was like, oh, I went to the very top. Like, it wasn't that bad. And we're all over there, like, dying, trying to get up there. Like, we're, like, tired, out of breath, hot, whatever. But, I don't know. Thought it was a funny story. It was, like, one of those moments where you're like, oh, my gosh. Like, looking back, I'm glad nothing bad happened. Because it definitely could have, and it could have been pretty bad. But, I don't know. It's kind of a funny story, and I don't know if it's like a good thing or a bad thing. Like I feel like you could take it one way of like, well, you should know your limits and be careful and not get yourself into a situation that's dangerous, whatever. But on the other side of it, it's like, I mean, look at this older lady who literally just persevered and made it to the very top and just was like, I don't need help. And then she eventually asked for help and one little, like I think that's kind of a cool story of perseverance and like kind of the willpower of the mind. Like I'm sure Pat during that journey was kind of like, what am I doing? Like this is hard. Like I don't know, maybe she wasn't, but I think it's kind of a cool little thing of like, hey, be like Miss Pat sometimes. Like sometimes you need to just keep pushing on even when it's tough, even when it feels like you can't do it, and you'll be rewarded for it. And then other times maybe don't be like Miss Pat and know your limits and try to pay attention. Like I don't know, it's just so funny that she was like, oh, I just walked to the very top. Like I don't know, I'm sure it messed up the tour for the day and all this stuff, but it's kind of a funny story, and it's only funny because she was safe. Like glad nothing happened obviously, but I don't know, we got a big kick out of that. I think the rest of the day we were all just laughing about Miss Pat, like oh my gosh, like I can't believe she did that hike, and we were all exhausted from it. So I don't know. Not really like not really like a concrete, like, oh, here's something that I'm thinking about this week. It's just kind of one of those funny stories of like perseverance. I don't know, like keep climbing that mountain even when it feels like you can't, and you'll reach the top. And yeah, I don't know. I think that obviously applies to a lot of things in life for obvious reasons, but kind of something I've been thinking about. Like I think back into my busy season, work has been a grind. I've been working on the garden a lot. It's like I'm feeling kind of tired and worn out, and it's like it's a good reminder. Like I'm not sitting here every week thinking like, oh, Miss Pat, I gotta persevere, but it's like a fun little reminder to be like, okay, I gotta push through. Like the reward is at the end. Like it's a grind right now, but it's all gonna work out, and it's it's all gonna be beneficial, and it's gonna be good in the end. Yeah, that's the story, Miss Pat. Hope you enjoyed it, Miss Pat. If you're out there, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're still doing 3 mile hikes up straight elevation, because that was pretty impressive. That was sick. As usual, thank you guys for tuning in, and this has been another episode of the Mellow Mondays podcast. Peace.